Hey everybody, welcome to my Suburban Oasis. So I'm excited, I got a couple of projects for you today. We're going to work on potting up some nasturtiums. They have gotten so big because I planted them before I had my knee surgery, and they are definitely outgrowing their little pots. And it's going to be a container planter that we're going to do lots of different things in, but right now my goal is just to get these out of their pots because we are finally at the point where I don't see any freezing temperatures in the forecast, and I believe they will be just fine. So we're going to do that. We're also going to move a couple of boxwoods, and then in addition to that, so exciting, I got an Espalier apple tree. So I'm really thrilled about it. I'll show you that, and we're going to plant that as well. All right, let's get started. Okay, so this is a galvanized tub that I have had for a really long time, and I thought it would be really fun for me to use this to plant up the nasturtiums and put it on top of this stump behind us. But first, I have to make sure that it has good drainage. So what I've done is I've begun drilling holes in here, but I saved the last one just so I could show you how I do it. So this is just a regular drill. This one's from Chemo. If you like it, there's a link in the description, or if you need a drill. But I'm just using this drill bit, and I'm putting in 5 different drainage holes. My husband says this drill bit is for wood, but I'm using it for metal, and it seems to be working just fine. So I've got all of my drainage holes now, and I'm going to get some pot feet to put this on that'll help lift it up a little bit off of the stump so that the drainage holes don't get clogged. So this year I grew 2 different kinds of nasturtiums. I've never grown them before, and one of them is pink and the other one is an apricot. So I'm going to mix them up a little bit in this container, and I spent a lot of time detangling them before this video because they got so big. So I have 3 nasturtiums in pretty much each container, and you can actually see the difference between the 2 nasturtiums. One has a pink stem and the other one has a white stem. Now, based on the number of seeds that I sowed, I actually believe the pink flowers are going to be the white stemmed ones, but either way, I'm just mixing them in this pot. The birds have been so happy since the weather started to get nice. Hopefully everybody out there is also getting some really nice weather. So I'm just going to pot them out. Look how nice those roots look. Perfect. Thank goodness I'm getting these in now. And if it gets really, really cold, I can always put like some fleece over the top of this, but right now our forecast looks really good for the next 10 days. It's possible that we might get another frost, but it doesn't look like it. We'll see. So I'm just going to go around now and plant them around in the circle. And I forgot to say, for those of you who don't know, my name's Soleil and I garden in mid-Michigan. I garden in a zone 5B, so we do get really cold over the winter, and it's been a really slow spring to warm up. I think actually it probably has put us about 3 to 4 weeks behind. So I have not been able to even get any of my warm vegetables out into the small greenhouse that I have. Things are just moving a little bit slower this year, so we'll just be really thankful that it finally appears to have started to change. Now these have been going in and out of the house for some time in order to harden them off, and that just is a necessary step for pretty much all seedlings if you've grown them inside, because what happens is the sunshine is so much brighter than the light that's indoors, even with grow lights, that you really do have to make sure that they have some time to adapt. Otherwise you can fry the leaves. And I did that with some of my Galvanized seedlings this year. I've been taking them in and out on sunny days because we have had a few really nice days, but then really cold nights. So really important to spend a little bit of time outside and then bring them back in, and then a little bit more time the next day and then bring them back in. And it really helps to start on a day where it's a little bit shady, kind of like today. So hopefully this isn't overkill. For those of you who grow nasturtiums and have lots of experience with them, tell me, am I going to end up with so many nasturtiums in this pot that it will be crazy? Or is it just going to look beautiful and full? I do plan to put something in the centerpiece in here and fill some other kind of more upright plants in. I would like to put perhaps some snapdragons in here as well. But again, right now my goal is just to give these guys a little bit more space than they had in their little 4-inch containers that I've been growing them in. I think one more, and we'll give it a mix. See how beautiful the colors are on the stems? I've already tried eating some of these leaves. For those of you who don't know, that nasturtium is also an edible plant. It's a bit spicy, but it's delicious. Add a little bit of peppery spice to a salad by tossing those in. So I think that's how many I'm going to put in this planter, and we'll see how that goes. Now, before I water it in, we're going to put it up on the stump because it's going to get really, really heavy once it's watered in. It's already heavy enough. So I'm going to grab my pot toes and we're going to put it up there, and then I'll slide the pot toes underneath the bottom. So these are pot toes, and I'm using 4 of them, and that will help to keep this lifted slightly off of the stump. And they're really easy. Even if something is super heavy, you only have to lift it a teeny bit to be able to get them underneath of it. And you want the little corner that sticks up on the outside so it stops it from sliding underneath the pot. So we'll get these in all 4 corners, and then we should be good to go. Well guys, I think this looks marvelous. I am going to give it a little bit of water because I don't think we're going to get any rain tonight. So, however, they are all really well watered because they were outside overnight and they got lots of water yesterday. But I think this turned out really beautiful. I mean, even if I didn't put something in the center, this is going to grow down and over this old hickory tree stump, and it's going to make it look so much more beautiful, isn't it? All right, well, let's move on. We're going to go take a look at the Espalier apple tree, and we'll see where we're going to plant it. Well, this, my friends, is my Espalier apple tree that I am super excited about. I was at a local nursery called G Farms, and they have lots of specialty trees. I actually went there to look for a couple of small evergreen trees, but they were a little bit out of my price range, so it'll be something I have to think about, and it's a goal to save for. But right now, I was just so excited to get this. We were on our way out actually of the nursery, kind of trying to work our way to the exit when we saw these, and I asked how much they were. And when I found out they were $150, but they were still 15% off, I thought it was too good to pass up. I have not seen one that is this size, that is well trained already, that is short, that I think looks like it's really healthy, that I could buy someplace locally. So I was super thrilled to find this. So we're going to talk a little bit now about the types of apples that are on here, because if you grow apples, it's important to know that they do require like cross-pollination. So oftentimes you might have to have 2 different apple trees in order for them to grow apples. But this one's really cool because, one, it has the Yellow Delicious apple variety on it, which is a self-pollinator. So if I just had this one alone on this tree, it would be fine. It would be able to grow apples on its own. But this is a triple threat, you guys. This tree has 3 different kinds of apples on it. The next one over here is a Fuji apple, which is super delicious. But because of the fact that we have all of these other apples on here, we're going to be able to different types of trees grafted on here, we're going to be able to get Fuji apples as well as the Yellow Delicious. And then down here at the bottom, we have a branch for the Liberty apple. And Liberty apples are bred to be specifically very disease resistant. So all of these grow well in our climate here in mid-Michigan. And I'm just super excited to have a tree that is my size. I can prune this, I can keep it small. There won't be so many apples that we can't possibly use all of them, or that we'll have to be picking up giant messes of apples every year. So having a little bit of fresh fruit in your garden is fantastic. I've enjoyed the raspberries and strawberries that I have. I'm working on some blueberries, and now to have apples just kind of, you know, puts a little cherry on top of my whipped cream. So let's find a place that we're going to put this, and we'll talk about what are some things to consider when, you know, picking out a location for a tree like this. Well, I'm super thrilled with the way that this turned out. As you can see, it's not completely tied into the fence, but it's going to be. The reason we chose this location is because it faces south. And we're going to actually be taking out these honeysuckle bushes that are over here, which will be providing a little bit less shade. So I think this is a really good kind of protected location for it, but it also should get plenty of sunshine. So that's a really important thing. It has to get like at least 8 hours of sun in order to develop fruit. We thought about one other location. It faced west, and it would have been up against a wooden fence, which is okay, but we would have had to spend a lot of time trying to figure out how to trellis it and get some wires in to connect it to. This just has some built-in ability for us to be able to tie the branches into, and it's going to make it a whole lot easier for us. And I actually don't mind if we don't get tons of fruit, because to me, I just want to have a few, and I love to see the apple blossoms in the spring. This is an awesome place for us to plant it, because this particular area is an area where we've been composting leaves and small sticks and things like that over the years. So as we dug the hole, which normally you should dig twice as wide as the root ball, we actually probably only dug it about 1.5 times the size of the root ball. But this soil is so healthy, and it's not super dense, so there's plenty of ability for the roots to develop and be able to stretch out into the native soil. It's just super good soil. I can't say that about all the areas in my yard, but I can say that about here. So we're going to backfill this. I'm probably going to throw a little bit of biotone in there also, just to help with the roots before we backfill. And yeah, that's going to be it. So we'll show you a quick picture of it afterwards, as well as the nasturtiums. And we've got one final project with our boxwoods that we're going to do real quick after this. So let's get going. I think it gets really windy every time that I come outside. It was calm when I started this video, so I apologize if there's a windy noise again in my video. These two boxwoods right here are pretty much the exact same size, and after I got this larger boxwood over here, I decided that I want to replace these two with the big one so that it's a little bit more centered in between here, because I think these look nice, but I really want to have just one centered in the middle. And then I'm going to take these two and I'm going to put them out in some planters in the front by my entryway, because I think it'll help make things look a little bit more tidy and symmetrical. You know, I always have problems with that front area, so we're going to give it a shot and see how that goes. All right, let's see how we can do with getting these out. I just planted these last year, so it won't surprise me if I might even be able to just pull these out. If they're in really good, then we'll have to get out the shovel, but yep, they haven't rooted in too bad yet, so that's going to be an easy one. The hard part will be for my husband to help me with digging the hole for the bigger one, because it's got a bigger root ball, obviously. All right, well, that was easy to get those out. Let's get the other one in, and then we'll take these out front and plant them. This bed is always pretty wet and has lots of heavy clay in it, so you can see that is pretty heavy clay. It is breaking up. It's better than it was when I first started gardening in this bed, but we're going to use some of the other soil that we dug out for the apple tree because it's just so much richer. We'll give a little bit better airflow to the area and allow those roots the opportunity to really grow well. So I already add a little bit of biotone in there, and for those of you who don't know, that does help to establish some of the mycorrhizae fungi, which has a symbiotic relationship with a lot of the microorganisms and microbacteria and fungi that are on the roots, and it helps to feed them. So it really helps to promote any new plants going into the ground that might be a little stressed. And since this was in a pot over the winter, I like to give it a little bit of help. Now when you're planting on a little bit of a slope like this, it's really important that the back of the root ball is pretty level with the soil. You want to let the front of the root ball stick up a little bit, and it will adapt over time to that situation. But what you don't want to do is bury the front of the root ball, because then the back of the root ball will be too deep. This pot is a casualty of winter. This is what happens when you leave terracotta out in a zone 5B garden and it freezes and thaws multiple times during the winter. Had I have thought to put a cover over the top, it would have been okay, or even flipped it over, but it's not. So, all right, this is what we're doing with these Boxwoods, guys. We're going to put these into these 2 pots right here, which should be pretty straightforward and simple. We'll get that done, show you what it looks like, and wander around to show you how all of our projects got done. Let's go. Well, what do you guys think? I think it turned out great. I'm super excited about it because it makes me feel like it's a lot cleaner, very simple, and some greenery, which does also tie in with my other boxwood that's over here. So a work in progress, but we're definitely getting a little bit closer to something that looks less chaotic up front. All right, let's check out the other projects. And here's my hubby doing a great project. We're getting ready to have 8 yards of mulch delivered next weekend. And so he's getting ready to add some wood sides to the gorilla cart to allow us to put more mulch into it. Guys, I will be doing a tour in just a couple of days so that I can show you some of the things that are beginning to bloom around here as we get things cleaned up, because right now it is a hot mess after the winter. You can see we've got stuff everywhere. But we did get the cover off the fountain, so yay! Finally, so much prettier to look at. And really like, again, the simplification to add that boxwood, but it also brings in a little bit of an effect of having an older garden, right? When you have bigger plants, it gives a sense of maturity to the area. So that looks really pretty. Can't wait to see the fountain going. And back here, even though you can't see it as well because it's not leafed out yet, that Espalier tree is looking beautiful, isn't it, you guys? I can just imagine what it will be like in a few weeks. There are buds on it, so I do know it will bloom, and I can only hope that we get at least a couple of apples. Wouldn't it be cool if we got one of each? All right, and there's the nasturtiums. They are looking really pretty up on top of that stump, aren't they? I'd like it. I'd like it better than the floating Buddha. I could always put the floating Buddha in the middle of the nasturtiums if I wanted to. That would look pretty cool too. Well, all right, you guys, I hope you really enjoyed the projects that we had to show you today that we've been working on. What kind of projects are you working on in your garden these days? I'd love to hear from you. What's popping up and leafing out or showing you some beautiful flowers. Thanks for joining me today, and I look forward to seeing you next time. Bye!